Whew. Thank you, Brian. We at Catholic Charities are very grateful to you and Maureen for being chairs of our event and for your ongoing support. Wow. It is quite a privilege and an absolute honor to be standing up here tonight and serving Catholic Charities as the Refugee Resettlement Program Manager. Again, my name is Toc Soneoulay. I am the daughter of Soulidade and Puvong Soneoulay. Growing up, I knew my history, but I didn't know my story. I was born in a refugee camp. That's what my parents told me. They never shared details of what happened in the camp or what that whole experience was like fleeing Laos during the Vietnam War. It was like they wanted to pretend like it didn't happen, in some ways wanting to forget. It wasn't until my dad was dying that he had the courage to share a little bit about our family story. My dad, my definition of triumph, fought alongside the US during the Vietnam War while my mother was pregnant with me. My mother, my mom, my courageous mother. She loved my dad so much that she gave up her family just to make sure he had food to eat every night. When the soldiers found out that she was leaving food for him in the forest, they went to her village. And in the midst of all the chaos and not knowing where my dad was, she escaped and hid in the forest. And then eventually hid in a boat that took her across the Mekong River into Thailand. When she made it to Sunubon refugee camp, she bribed people and she eventually made it in. Even then, she experienced inhumane conditions. No running water, no hospital facility, barely a roof over her head, and yet she still managed to give birth to me. When my dad got word that we were in Sunubon, he eventually made his way to us. It wasn't until the late 70s that we made it to the US, right, through refugee resettlement. I'm so sorry, this is so hard. Ooh. Even when we got here, life was still hard. Being the oldest of 6, I had to give up my childhood to be that critical link for my parents just because they didn't speak English. They were adrift in a new land, in a new culture, but that still shouldn't have been my responsibility. I shouldn't have had to be that link. They worked so hard. They cleaned toilets proudly, day in and day out. And yet we still lived in the poor parts of town, relying on food stamps and food banks. I always kept asking, why? Like, why me? And that's a lot of what other refugees say, why me? It wasn't until I met a woman, an extraordinary woman by the name of Cecilia Borisevic, that I stopped asking why. Cecilia was the Refugee Resettlement Program Manager for Catholic Charities. Back in 2001, she took a chance on me. right out of undergrad and gave me my very first job in refugee resettlement as a case manager. By the time I had arrived, she'd already been working with refugees for over 40 years. If you asked her, why dedicate your life to working with refugees? She'd look at you and be like, why not? Aside from being my supervisor, she was my mentor. She helped bring my refugee journey full circle and defined for me the pain, the fears, the humiliation, and the resilience of refugees pre and post US arrival. She expanded my world. She sparked my curiosity, and in the end, made me proud of who I was and what successes could come out of being a refugee. It's difficult to put into words what Cecilia meant to me. She was a true model for a humanitarian. If you never met her, you really missed a special experience. She passed away last year around this time, after more than 5 decades. 5 decades doing what she loved. Refugees know that when they get off the plane that someone will be there to welcome them. One of those arrivals was the Toc family, who started their long journey to Portland a little over 3 years ago from a refugee camp in Thailand. The Toc family is from the Karen ethnic group from Burma. The country has been under military rule for more than 50 years. And to this day, the government is fully prepared to use its soldiers against its own people. This is the reason why the Toc family escaped to a refugee camp. You'll hear more about their story in our short video presentation. Before I go, I'd like to just say this piece. As I stand up here giving voice to the refugee story, one that includes pain, doubt, and courage, I can't help but think of 3 things that keeps me grounded every day. The first one is all the people who gave up their lives in war back then and today, just so others can be safe. Something about that doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem fair. Second, the fact that the United States of America opened its arms and welcomed my family and the Toc family when my own country turned its back. I'm so sorry. Just really overwhelming. And third, all the sacrifices that my parents made in order to give me and my siblings opportunities. No matter how many impressive degrees or titles I achieve, it will never amount to a fraction of what my parents gave up. They taught me how to live, love, work, and parent. However, what ties these 3 realities together for me is remembering that without support from agencies like Catholic Charities, I would not have made it this far. It's moments like this where I am asked to speak in front of you all, and my heart is pounding. I'm sorry, may I say that again? And I will read it because it's so important. It's moments like this where I am asked to speak in front of people like you who have made a choice to come here tonight and connect at a very human level that inspires me. It's recognizing that people like you are what gave my family and the Tabo Gay family and hundreds of others a second chance at life. By being here tonight, you are undoubtedly carrying on Cecilia's legacy and saying, why not? So on behalf of all those who are in search of a second chance, we thank you.